Well, the impact of the pandemic continues to be felt by communities and families throughout the Kootenays. Perhaps one group that is feeling it the most right now is our local business community. We spoke to Chamber of Commerce representatives from Nelson, Castlegar, and Grand Forks to find out what the biggest challenges are that area businesses face and hear about some of their creative solutions.
Well, it's been a really impactful last 6 or 7 weeks for local businesses all around British Columbia for sure, and Nelson and areas certainly not adverse to any of that. Uh, when it first happened, I think everybody was just really in shock, and we had to really quickly pivot. And a lot of businesses didn't know when they were supposed to close or how they were supposed to close. So basically, people started closing down bars and restaurants and all of the people that were mandated. But a lot of retail started closing down as well, and then realizing after a while that, you know what, they're actually, if they can do some safe procedures and follow what the public health officer was saying, they were able to start to pivot and do business, but not as usual. So we're starting to see that shift now, and for the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's been a really positive shift. About a month ago, if you drove down downtown Baker Street, our really vibrant downtown main street, it looked like you could shoot a cannon and not hit anybody. And now there's vehicles down there. People are staffing their stores. Some of it is online pickup. Some of it is one person at a time and by appointment only. But they're really starting to do a really good job of coming around and trying to adapt to these changing climates.
Absolutely, every business is affected right now. I think for some people, they see on the outside, if there's a very, very busy store, that, that they're killing it and things are going so well. But there's so many challenges that go along, whether you're successful right now or not. People have a lot of pressure under them. They have to be following employment standards, the COVID regulations. It's all such a new ball game. But I think what I'm really seeing is an unprecedented amount of work and collaboration that's happening between businesses. Very exciting. People, especially ones that have remained open through this whole situation, are being used for advice right now. For other businesses, we're creating lots of mentorship between. Where people can call in and find out from other people, what to do, and the impact is profound. And we're supporting as much as we possibly can, and hoping that people are able to ride out this whole thing, and with all the supports there, and be able to regain an open business. When it'll be the same as it was once, I'm not sure, but at least having people be able to be successful enough to pay their bills and have an income for themselves, yeah.
Well, I think obviously some businesses have had to close completely, just due to their staffing situations or whether it was mandated by the government. There's also, they've changed what services they're able to provide. Some of them have changed kind of their hours of service, how many days a week they can be open. And I think you mentioned small business, but I think it's also affecting bigger businesses in the area as well, in terms of, they're used to having a staff member call in sick for a couple days, but now they've got staff calling in sick and those people have to stay home for 2 weeks. So it's definitely affecting the small business, but I think it is being felt throughout the community.
Right now, probably the biggest thing for a lot of small businesses, not just in Nelson and area, but right around the province, would be wages, trying to be able to cover the cost of their employees if they bring them back, or how they can bring them back, and rent, and how can they pay their rent if landlords are not able to come to the table and provide some assistance by deferring the rent to a later time of the year, or even putting it to the end of their lease. So, the federal and provincial governments has been working really closely with the Chamber of Commerce in BC, and also the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and other business organizations, trying to come up with programs that are really helpful for the businesses. But there's still a number of businesses that fall through the cracks, and they don't quite qualify for the programs the way the government is laid out. And that's still a concern for the business community. Every program that a government rolls out tries to cover as many people as possible, but there's always going to be a number of people that just don't fit into they may be a round hole in a square peg, and it just doesn't quite work. They're trying to find a way to pay contractors instead of an employee, and that's just not part of the program. Governments are trying to shift and adjust those programs as necessary. But one of the other challenges for those businesses would be the Prime Minister or the Premier would announce a program on a Monday, and not knowing exactly how Parliament and the legislature worked, they would sometimes take 2 or 3 weeks before the program would be available. And so a lot of businesses would be calling and emailing and wondering, how do I qualify for this? The Premier or the Prime Minister just said that I could get this. And then it was really 2 or 3 weeks out. So it was the waiting game. And then when you heard the details, a lot of times, yeah, you could ask for a rent assistance program, but the devil is really in the details. And until you see those details, you don't know exactly how you qualify or if your landlord is going to help you out. So still a few challenges. We're certainly seeing a bit more of a light at the end of the tunnel, but still some challenges ahead for sure.
I think one of the biggest things for people right now, now that we're kind of a month and a half into it, is, the unknown. They're trying to plan for their employees. Can they bring their employees back to work for the summer? They're trying to plan for inventory, for budgeting. They're not knowing how long this can last. And I think that really takes a toll on not only their business and their bottom line, but also on their mental health.
Most people have had to adapt to where they're the sole operator. And so that means a lot of long hours, especially when they've changed the way that they've done business, whether it's the virtual shopping, all of a sudden they're doing curbside delivery, delivery to homes. It's a whole new world, talking to one retail store owner where he's now, going in early morning, he's working at night, he's working on weekends, trying to accommodate people's needs so he can survive. And so there's been a lot of changes, absolutely.
Well, there's been a wealth of programs that were rolled out over the last 6 weeks. The federal government has wage assistance programs and wage subsidies and business loans that some portion of those would be deferred and even forgiven if they were able to meet certain terms and qualifications. Certainly the rental assistance program is one that was just announced a week ago, and details are still being hammered out on that, but that would really be to allow a landlord to apply and basically take a 25% hit and then have the business pay 25% of the rent, and then the federal and provincial governments would come in for the other 50%. So the landlord would get about 75% rent, and in some cases that's better than getting nothing at all, because these businesses may or may not stay alive for another 60 days. And if you lose a tenant now, in today's day and age with the way business is being done, who knows if you're ever going to get a tenant back again. So working with your landlord, working with your financial institutions and your accountant, looking at the BC Chamber and the Canadian Chamber resource pages that are out there. Small Business BC from the provincial government has a really good resource page. And just doing the best you can to try to navigate through this. And our chamber has been working right from the time that our office closed to the public back on March 20th, working as a business conduit to try to answer some of those questions. And we work hand in hand with our economic development partnerships at Community Futures and also Nelson Kootenay Lake Tourism. We're working with our economic development partners, which is the City of Nelson and electoral area E&F, just trying to find ways to assist businesses to the best of our ability and find out if they can navigate sometimes the real challenge of going through government websites and understanding exactly how they qualify or why they don't qualify. So there's still a lot of questions to be answered. We're trying to do our best.
A few things that we've been doing locally, us along with Community Futures, we've been doing weekly Zoom calls with business owners in the area just to kind of touch base, not having a super set agenda, but just for a place for businesses to get together, talk about what's happening with them, giving feedback. Are they open? Are they not open? What resources have they found? Have they applied for some of the funding that's available? Does the funding work for them? And also just to bounce ideas off each other. And we have had a few guest speakers come into those Zoom calls. We've had someone from Interior Health, WorkSafe BC. This week we have someone who's going to speak about mental health with the COVID-19 situation. And we also have Thompson Okanagan Tourism Association coming in.
We're really excited because we're working with our MLA right now in the City of Castlegar and Regional District to come up with a recovery plan. So with the recovery plan, it'll move into some of the work that we're already have been doing with creating our lists for retail businesses as well as for the restaurants, who's open, how they're open, and so we're driving some business to those places and in a very safe way. So a lot of people don't have to leave their home. They can shop on, they can call the store, they can get delivery to their home. There's so many different great ways that can happen. But with our new recovery plan, it's about working with all business. So there's a lot of businesses that don't have a storefront that are struggling as well. And so every single person that's on our business license list for the city, as well as on our Chamber of Commerce list, will have the opportunity to either be connecting with us one-on-one or in sectors. So we really like the sector support. So that's where people can be sharing their best practices and what they're doing themselves in their businesses, bouncing around ideas. And so those are some of the parts of the recovery plan, and also offering referrals or direct communication with us about how to navigate some of these systems.